Getting your cheeks busted for overtime is diabolical. We got some female officers who got busted for a scandal. Let's check it out.
100 hours of overtime, a staggering total uncovered last month by the New York Post. It allowed Epps to pull in more than $204,000 in overtime pay, on top of her base salary of around $164,000, plus fringe benefits.
Last week, her overtime salary of more than $400,000 a year, making headlines, prompting her, according to her attorney, to come forward. She worked under Madry as personnel officer in his previous post, but according to the complaint, the sexual harassment didn't begin until after he became chief of department.
What happened here seems to be that Lieutenant Epps was under investigation internally by the NYPD since October, and the allegations are that not only was she putting in for excessive overtime, but that she was actually putting in for overtime that she had not completed or done, so that she was effectively stealing time.
Today, federal agents searched the home of former NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry.
Yeah, that move is following his sudden resignation from the department amid accusations he demanded sexual favors in exchange for overtime pay with an employee, which he claims was consensual.
Okay, we got a major update in this
Police freak-offs? I like, yo, it's just so many freak-offs going on. I'm so confused right now.
time scandal story. It gets crazy.
Shout out to Nate the Lawyer.
Happy New Year and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nate the Lawyer and let's get into this crazy story about sex, lies, and overtime when it comes to the NYPD. All right, our story starts about 9 months ago when the NYPD was called out by the city council for spending massive amounts of overtime. Check it out.
The NYPD's overtime budget is soaring. It is up 50%. The department says that's because of frequent protests in New York City surrounding the conflict in Gaza. And it also is paying more to patrol the subways with the recent surge of high-profile crimes. The top brass today faced tough questions from members of the city council. Here's Eyewitness News reporter N.J. Burkett.
You get what you pay for.
NYPD Commander Edward Caban insisted today that the results speak for themselves.
Shooting incidents are down 16%, and murder has dropped 18.8%, while burglary has been reduced by 12.7%, and overall crime is down 1.6% citywide.
But in a hearing before the City Council, NYPD commanders admitted that costs are soaring. Police deployments in the subway system and details for demonstrations have blown the NYPD's overtime budget by more than $100 million, on course for an increase of 50% over their own projections. Council Speaker Adrienne Adams was firm.
The continued spending and significant excess of the budget on overtime only intensifies concerns about the department's management of its budget and workforce.
Now, as you can see in this photo, this is Chief Jeffrey Madry. He was one of the top brass there at the NYPD defending the department's overtime expenditure. So now after this occurred, the New York Post did an expose on the top earning overtime cops in the city. And one of those cops happened to work for Chief Madry. Check it out.
Lieutenant Quantisha Epps claimed to work
Y'all gotta stop with these names. Quantisha. Like, why would her parents do that to her? Like, that's crazy. I'm sorry. I just got distracted. Quantisha.
1,600 hours of overtime, a staggering total uncovered last month by the New York Post. It allowed Epps to pull in more than $204,000 in overtime pay, on top of her base salary of around $164,000, plus fringe benefits.
Now, Epps tried to retire, but then she was suspended without pay because the brass thought that she was stealing overtime. Then Epps had a new story to tell. She wasn't stealing overtime. She was getting paid for sex.
Lieutenant Epps says starting in June 2023, Madry engaged in efforts to coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities.
Damn.
According to publicly available payroll data, Epps made a salary last year of over $164,000. But after overtime was factored in, she took home more than $400,000.
Damn. And this is going viral for Fox News as well. Not Fox News, Fox Sports as well, with Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless and all them. yo, they are really paying a whole lot of money for some cheeks. It's like crazy to me right now. I'm in shock.
Making her the department's highest paid employee. After refusing his advances in October, she says, Madry retaliated by orchestrating an intentionally manipulated monthly overtime report, which resulted in a criminal and internal investigation opened against her.
Now, the chief responds to all this saying, hey, this was all a consensual relationship. She is just lying about him approving the overtime because he doesn't even approve overtime. And he resigned not because of these baseless allegations, it's because he was moving on with his career. Here is the chief explaining it.
And I just wanted to come out and just stand up for myself and tell everyone that these accusations are not true.
Well, let's get into a little bit and ask about the one that is making the most headlines. Did you force sexual favors from a subordinate, NYPD Lieutenant GoatedJah Epps, starting in June 2023? She's a ranking officer. Did you force that in exchange for overtime approval and other perks signed off by you?
Absolutely not.
What happened here?
Me and Lieutenant Epps, we worked together. Starting in early 2022. We were together, working together for about a year and a half, and we were working together. One thing.
I don't like his eye contact. First of all, if people who lie look around a lot. If you haven't noticed, they look around a lot, and it's hard to not do it because it's like telltale signs of like lying. I watched it was a documentary or something, and he explained how people lie, and you see how he's just. I don't like his eye contact right now. Make eye contact. Be not aggressive because those words don't fit into this right now. But you got to be stern, and you got to look in the eyes of the person who's talking to you. This is crazy, bruh. Like, is it that hard to get some cheeks? Is it really this hard to get some cheeks? I'm just saying, at this point, people are paying so much money for one piece of ass, and it's boggling my mind right now. I didn't even think people would do this. Now, I don't want to accuse this man, but it's just seeming like a trend around the world. You pay an absorbent amount of money for one piece of ass. It's just seeming like a trend right now. Hopefully this ain't true. And NYPD, y'all, come on, man. Y'all talking about the budget for being in the subways for all the protesters. Come to find out, police freak-offs. What?
To another, we had an office fling, and that's all it was an office fling.
Consensual relationship, you're saying?
Absolutely consensual.
How long did that last?
We had
he
got
might be
together
lying.
a couple of times. There was really nothing to it. There was no romance. We weren't girlfriend and boyfriend. We had an office fling, and that's all it was.
You're the chief of department. Some may look at that and say it may have been consensual, but you had far-reaching powers and this was a subordinate. Do you think that was appropriate?
It wasn't appropriate for me to be in a relationship with anyone.
And so let me be clear. You're saying...
Oh, he said, oh my God, did you hear what he just said? Bro said it wasn't appropriate for me to be in a relationship with anyone. No, you're not supposed to be sleeping with the goddamn employees, man. If you the top dog, you ain't supposed to be sleeping with the underdogs, man. Come on. And then his eye contact is killing me. I don't want to put nothing on somebody, but when he looking at the ground, looking at the ants on the floor and shit, like, I'm questionable about him right now. I'm super questionable about him. And he's a more heavyset guy, so you see what I'm saying to you? She probably got her own little thing going on outside of work, but to get some of that extra overtime, she came home with like half a ticket. That's $500,000 if you don't know. But half a ticket, that's crazy.
You had a consensual relationship with Miss Epps.
And who signed off on the overtime?
Is essentially lying in this EEOC complaint. What do you think her motivation is to do this now?
Would you mind if I answered that? Because, what happened here seems to be that Lieutenant Epps is under investigation internally by the NYPD since October. And the allegations are that not only was she putting in for excessive overtime, but that she was actually putting in for overtime that she had not completed or done, so that she was effectively stealing time. So when she put in her retirement waivers, 2 days later, the NYPD suspended her. and they suspended her because of suspicion that she had committed a crime, which is stealing overtime from the NYPD.
It was abrupt.
Yes.
And some would say, well, if you didn't feel you did anything wrong, why did you leave so abruptly?
Well, there was a couple of things going on when I made the decision. I was already making a decision, and it was really weighing heavy on my mind. I was entering 35 years, almost completing 35 years of city service. I knew that I was going to have to fight, and I didn't want to have the constraints of the police department, being the chief of the department, holding me back from fighting properly for my innocence. When you're in the police department, I can't say certain things. I can't do certain things. I have to have the chief manager persona. When you talk about my work speaks for itself. Driving down crime as the chief of department, all right? What I've done out there in the communities, what I've done in Brooklyn North, all right? I have given so much to the city, so much, and I've never asked anyone for anything in return, all right? Countless people who can never repay me for what I've done for them, all right? And I've never looked for repayment.
Now pay attention, because I'm getting good at this shit. This is true. What he's saying of the work he put in the 35 years is true. Why do I know that? This man has full eye contact now. Y'all have to watch the telltale signs, bro, of people who be capping to not capping. And some suspect about him. But I noticed that now he's just straight. He ain't looking at the floor. He ain't all nervous looking at the damn space station and shit. So, this is interesting right here. This is interesting. Police freak-offs selling cheeks for overtime. I mean, what? And then they both retired. Y'all are some suspicious ass police officers, to say the least. It's like, why didn't you retire before? It was still 35 years, right? So why didn't you retire 34 years? What made you retire as soon as you knew this woman? Oh, he said he wanted to defend himself. Bruh, I'm suspicious about all this shit. I don't know if they had a conversation, because I don't want to say that he's just guilty. He could have had a conversation and the woman was willing to give up them cheeks. But he can't do that as a chief. So it's mind-boggling. But y'all need to notice those things about people, because he's deadlocked right now. So that means he's telling the truth.
Not even from the lieutenant. So for her to try and spin a story like this is very hurtful, because I've given so much to the people of this city.
During our conversation and during a press conference today with select members of the media, the former chief and his lawyer claim they have evidence backing up their statements. The relationship with Lieutenant Epps was consensual, and they say it includes intimate text messages and images.
So now you may say, well, this is a he said, she said. Quantisha Epps was banging them for overtime, so that's essentially prostitution, being paid with taxpayer dollars. It's all a mess, right? They both are horrible people. But that's not the end of the story, because some other women who work for the chief also were making monstrous amounts of overtime, like Detective Ingrid Sanders.
According to departmental records, Lieutenant Quantisha...
Damn, he was hitting the whole staff, bro. I'm not gonna... And why is no men out here getting what they deserve if they actually putting in this overtime? I got 2 cousins that are police officers, NYPD to be exact. So it's crazy to think about that. Where is the man out there? Because if it was a thing where it was like women and men, then you wouldn't find it as suspicious. But I find it super suspicious. Just all the women that was under him is just getting their cheeks clapped, and they're ending up with $400,000, $350,000, and their base salary is $160,000, and probably lower than that. That is insane. The money we give to this city got the chief clapping cheeks. What? You can't make this shit up, people. You can't make this shit up. Now, I feel like everyone involved is horrible. I don't pick a side. They all horrible as hell. Like, what type of shit is this? Think about it. All the money you work hard for, all the things you do for New York, if you're a New Yorker. Your money going to some dude clapping cheeks on the whole staff everybody getting hit. This is crazy.
Madry's personnel officer worked more than 1,600 hours in the fiscal year of 2024, bumping her salary to $406,000. It also shows Detective Ingrid Sanders, Madry's driver, with more than 1,400 hours of overtime, bumping her salary to $352,000. Madry's second in command, Deputy Chief Paul Saraceno, who oversaw overtime approval, was modified Wednesday evening. And Monday, Commissioner Jessica Tisch removed 14 officials from the Internal Affairs Bureau after the chief also abruptly resigned in the overtime abuse scandal.
Now, Quantisha Epps is making $400,000 a year. Ingrid is making $350,000 a year. Are there any other female officers working for the chief making monstrous amounts of overtime? Well, yes. Yes, there was.
There more.
Ada Reyes.
Oh, this. Oh, come on, Ed. He hitting everything. All races, colors, and creeds. Oh my God, this is crazy. Somebody need to investigate this shit. FBI, where you at, man? Somebody get to these people. This is insane, bro. They cashing out. So, whoa. Because if there was dudes there, then it's not as suspicious, like I said. But if it's all females just cashing out, you gotta ask yourself, why are they in 1,600 hours of community? I said community service. I'm going crazy. This is such a crazy story of overtime. 1,600 hours of overtime. Do y'all understand how much overtime that is? I don't even think a person could honestly work that much and not be like out of it. Like, that's crazy. Can a person work 1,600 hours after you? This is not her like base thing. This is overtime. So how much does she work a week or a month? God damn. They was stealing money. Whoever was doing it, they was stealing.
$53,000 in overtime, New York Post reports. Now, overtime isn't something new in law enforcement. On average, NYPD officers can make between 10 to 20% of their salary in overtime. But now, if you compare that to the 3 women who are working for the chief, for instance, Quantisha Epps, her base salary is $164,000. So if you factor in overtime, she made 124% of her base salary in overtime. That's a lot more than the 10 to 20% on average. Ingrid Saunders, she made 84% of her estimated base salary in overtime. 84%. And Detective Reyes made 57% of her base salary in overtime. So this seemed to be a real problem. So with all these women being paid these huge amounts of overtime and all these questions about sex for public funds, the FBI and Internal Affairs said, hey, we gotta really look to see what's going on.
I knew the FBI was on it. I knew it. They had to get on this type of shit. What in the world? You would have thought these people were fighting to protect New York, to serve the damn people, and niggas is serving their deepest, darkest secrets. That's what we coming to find out. What in the world is going on, man? People making 84% of their base salary? Come on, what? She ain't a tech genius. She's a goddamn police officer. Why you making so much goddamn money? And what's like I said, what's making me so suspicious is no dudes. So it's like, yeah, somebody was getting hit. Well, all of them was getting hit, clearly.
Going on here because we have hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars going to what looks to be a sex for pay scandal.
Hey, Teresa. So what we know right now is that federal agents and the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau raided Jeffrey Madry's home, which is right behind me, this morning. Now, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, in a statement, said other locations were searched as well, but didn't give specifics. Now, take a look at this video here. This is video of investigators bringing out boxes and bins of papers. Madry is being investigated over allegations that he demanded sex from a subordinate in exchange for overtime pay. A day before these bombshell allegations were made, Madry put in his retirement papers, leaving his position as chief of department. The new chief of department, John Shell, was sworn in on New Year's Eve, but Commissioner Tisch also making clear this morning that Madry has been suspended from the department as well. Any NYPD officer who retires technically stays on the books for 30 days and can be suspended if it's determined he's violated department rules or committed a criminal act. Yet, Madry has denied the accusations that he forced this lieutenant to have sex with him, claiming that the relationship was consensual. We have reached out to Madry's lawyers, but haven't heard back.
Yeah, you was consensually giving their ass the people's money so you could get the chicks. And it's 3 of them. God damn. What I've learned is what people will do for money. First of all, from the women's aspect, what they would do for money is crazy. Like, y'all dead ass. This is prostitution in policing. This is like blowing my mind right now. And then it's always some creepy, I'm sorry to say it, but it's always some creepy big guy who's not, not the lady's first choice trying to pay. It's always a creep doing this shit. So from the Skip Bayless 1.5 million, like what the, it definitely pays to be a woman for sure. Like just to have some cookie, you know what I'm saying? It pays. Cause this is crazy. Y'all was making so much money. Now I want to like put the math together, but y'all done took like at least 300,000 to 400,000 from the people, which is crazy. And this shit could go bigger and bigger. We could be in different departments. We don't know. We're focused on this story, but we don't know if different departments and different places in New York is doing this shit. Oh my God.
Yet. Now, on Tuesday, Mayor Adams also said that Commissioner Tisch is doing a review of the department and looking specifically at how overtime hours are logged.
So now, what do you think? At first, I thought the chief and Quantisha Epps were bad people, but now it seems like the chief was doing this with a whole bunch of other people. Now, the allegations are specifically with...
No. You don't get to run away. I think you're a bad person if you participate in it, but the worst person is the damn chief. Let's be honest. But them girls, like, to sell your body for overtime is just... That's some shit I can't even... I don't want to have a daughter. Like, I really don't want to have a daughter, man. Because, like, the desperation for money in this world will have her selling her ass for overtime.
Not these other 2 officers who are not saying that they were harassed sexually, but my God, $350,000 in overtime? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And it all happens to go to women who are on the police force who happens to work under this guy. None of this makes sense. And for those of you who watch the channel all the time, this is exactly what's going on in Dalton. This is exactly what Tiffany Hinyard was doing with the police department in Dalton. Remember?
The officers are paid every 2 weeks, which without overtime is 80 hours. But when they're put on Hinyard's detail, that 80 hours balloons to well over 100 hours, sometimes 200 hours. And in the case of Officer Terry Young last May...
Yo, how many hours is in a week? I'm trying to figure out how many hours is in a week. They going up to 200 and 250 and 300 hours. Like, come on, man. Do people really work that much? Like, let's be honest. Let's say this to ourselves. Can you work 300 hours in a week? I don't even think, come on, man. My math skills is not mathing right now, so I have to get the calculator out and calculate these calculations, but the math ain't mathing right now. Hold up, like, and all these people, it's just not one person, it's all these people working 200 hours and 300 hours.
303 hours worked over a 2-week period.
300 hours? Yo, come on, man. 24, now you got me doing some math. 48, 7, come on, 72. Damn. Did you go home? That's the question. 300 hours, bro. That just sounds, maybe it sounds crazy, but it's possible. That's why I don't want to say it's not possible, but that shit sounds crazy. Like, a lot of people ain't working 300 hours in a span of 2 weeks. So that's 150 hours every week, right? But when you calculate the hours, it's just 24 hours in a day. So are you on the clock from that time till the whole week? Because that's about 150. That means you don't go home. You just stay on the clock. So, yeah, they stealing. Come on, you don't stay on the clock. You go home. You got to get off, right? You got to go to sleep.
That resulted in a single paycheck of more than $13,000.
How? How does a person put in a 2-week pay period, 303 hours? That's impossible.
Thank you.
That's impossible.
336
Does he
hours.
never go to sleep?
In
thank you. This lady hit it on the head. That's the investigation. How the hell does one human put in that many hours? If 24 hours in a day, you could do that math, you literally would have to be sleeping at the police station, or you don't go to sleep.
In fact, there are 336 hours total in 2 weeks, meaning Young would...
Wait, hold up. He gave us how many hours is in a week, so I don't have to do the calculations.
Never go to sleep?
In fact, there are 336 hours total in 2 weeks.
There's 336 hours in 2 weeks, right? Let's calculate that math. So she did 303. That would leave about 30 hours left. 24 hours is 1 day. Oh my God. Oh my God. You can't even, that's physically impossible. It's physically impossible to work that strain of like that many hours and take 1 day off. Pretty much 1 day. Come on, man. Arrest these people. They stealing from the people. And people want to do right by people. You get what I'm saying? Too, for the most part in the world, there's a lot of good people out here. And imagine, this is why people do crimes. This is why people don't listen to people. Because the people who's supposed to be doing the good shit out here stealing, having freak-offs and all types of shit.
Meaning Young was not being paid for only 33 hours over that period. Other officers on the security detail are also racking up overtime paychecks in the multiple thousands of dollars.
So as you see, for police officers, it seems like the easiest way for them to steal money from the public is just faking overtime. Hinyard did it. I'm surprised the FBI hasn't raided Hinyard and the police officers there for essentially doing the same thing that's happening.
Nah, we done with it right here. Shout out to Nate the lawyer. Bro, we got to push this message around the earth. Like, bruh, not only you have to defund them, they're out here stealing they shit. You would have thought people was talking about defund the police like on some, you know, all the crimes and all the illegal shit that they do. But now come to find out they stealing y'all money. The money that y'all are working hard for, they're stealing. These people running home with 5 bands and 10 bands and overtime and they can't even physically work those hours. Like, what? What? You're supposed to be a public. That shit is disrespectful to all cops, man. To the cops that really care, that do it legit. That shit is very disrespectful, man. I'm gonna end the video right here. Quantisha, Jeffrey, all y'all. You need to be looked into. And if some heinous shit, diabolical shit was happening, get them up out of here, man. And they need to start tightening the books or something. Because when the public gets whiff of this shit right now, it's so much shit going on in the world. But if a moment that this shit goes viral and a lot of people start realizing that the officers in their cities, because it's not one city, if it's 2 or 3, yeah, I don't believe in coincidences. So it's probably in multiple cities, multiple places. There's a problem, yeah. These people, yeah, there's a problem. You need to stop protesting about other shit and protest about the money that these people stealing from y'all. Till